Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. So, basically, for my film critique, I will analyze Bong Joon-ho's Parasite through a conflict theory lens and a psychoanalytic lens. Released in 2019, Parasite is a thriller, drama, and comedy movie written by Bong Joon-ho and Han Ji-won. It tells the story of two different families living two very different lives, all within Seoul, a Korean city. The Kim family, consisting of Ki-taek, the father, Chung-suk, the mother, Ki-jung, the daughter, and Ki-woo, the son, all live in a semi-basement apartment. They are shown to be struggling with finances in the beginning of the film and desperately need a way out. They struggle to get Wi-Fi, buy food, and most of them are unemployed. Contrastingly, the Park family, consisting of Park Dong-ik, the father, Choi Young-yo, the mother, Park Da-hye, the daughter, and Park Da-sung, the son, live lavish lives, situated at a penthouse far above where the struggling reside. When a coincidence happens where the Kim family is introduced to the Park family, that's when everything goes into action. Slowly but surely, each member of the Kim family infiltrates into the Park family by conning the Park family into accepting each one of them into their family through pretending to be a university English tutor, an art teacher, a housekeeper, and a driver. With the introduction of this film done, I will now be moving on to critique this film through a psychoanalytic lens. According to Sigmund Freud, the psychoanalytic theory is a belief that the personality of an individual will go through an array of stages and that human behavior is made up of three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id represents your natural impulses. The superego represents the moral principles that guide society. And lastly, the ego is the compromise between the id and superego that determines a person's personality and the way they behave in reality. In Parasite, when you look at it from a psychoanalytic perspective, you can very clearly see how throughout the film, the id often overpowers the family's superego. The Kim family in the beginning of the movie blatantly outright lying to the Park family about their occupations because they are gullible and purposely framing the driver and housekeeper to secure their positions shows how their subconscious yearns for stability and comfort. These subconscious thoughts manifest into reality even though they know that doing so is immoral. Here, the film writers lay the groundwork to justify their behavior later in the movie. Not even being able to afford basic human needs will prove to be fuel for this family, even if they might have to sacrifice their moral compass. Later on into this film, the excitement that they now all have jobs and money, the Kim family starts getting ahead of themselves, calling the house that they provide for their home. "We live here now, this is our home," says the mother. The film writers offer a window into the nature of poverty. When someone is trapped in poverty, they have little options in their life. They're too bogged down by money and cannot afford things such as education, basic needs, or even dignity. What they very powerfully conveyed is the pure desperation of poverty, and the way they acted at the penthouse that night proves it. Their thirst for wealth is quenched and was quenched in a short period of time, giving them the illusion that it was meant to be. When something that you wanted so bad finally becomes yours, you lose track of reality. They even got drunk at the penthouse while the real family was away on a family trip, knowing that they weren't supposed to be there at all during this time of day. Later on in the movie, which I'll explain in the next part, reality hits them right back in the face. Moving on, I'll also be analyzing Parasite from a conflict theory lens. Conflict theory, according to Karl Marx, is that because of society's constant struggle for resources, there will always be conflicts happening. Those that happen to be in possession of a large amount of resources and money will defend their resources and money. Meanwhile, those that are lacking in resources will do whatever they can to gain those resources. When you apply the conflict theory lens to Parasite, you can see how desperate and thirsty the Kim family is for those very resources that the Park family seems to have an endless supply of. When people are born into situations that are working against them, it's very hard for them to go up against the systems built against them. Which proves why they behave like that when they got that golden opportunity to work for the parks. The main turning point in the movie is when the old housekeeper came back to the penthouse, and the Kims find out that the old housekeeper had been keeping her husband in a secret underground cellar, which signifies the name of the movie. They're like parasites, leeching off the Park family, like what the Kims are doing now because of their living conditions. When the Kims discover this, they try to call the police, but then the housekeeper finds out that each of the new workers for the Park family are related, and a brawl breaks out. This is an example of conflict which proves the conflict theory definition. The fight for resources doesn't always have to be the rich against the poor. Usually it's the poor against the poor. When the top are too powerful to fight against, turning against one another instead of helping each other out for these limited resources is probably the only way out. It's everyone for themselves. Later on in the movie, a large flood occurs which made the Kim family lose their semi-underground flat. Meanwhile, it was just some light rain for the Park family. The father of the Parks even asked the Kims to help with a birthday party, even though they told them they were stranded at a community center. At the community center, the father told his son, "It's better without a plan. If you make a plan, life never works out that way." His son was different from him. He made plans and he acted on them while expecting for the plan to work out. For example, scheming to work for the Parks. The plan didn't work out in the end because they killed the housekeeper to keep their secret safe. He wants this to be a lesson towards him, that some things just aren't meant to happen and that people living in two different worlds with different privileges can never truly integrate into each other's lifestyles because of how different they have been living. Ki-woo, the son of the Kim family, even asked Da-hye, the daughter of the Park family, "In this setting, do I fit in?" He already knew the answer, and he left Da-hye, whom he was in love with, knowing that he could never live up to these standards, even though Da-hye loves him no matter what. In the end, the housekeeper's husband comes out of the dungeon and stabs Ki-jung, the daughter of the Kim family, during Da-song's birthday party. All of the elite people attending did not care at all that Ki-jung was dying. The father of the Parks asked for the father of Ki-jung to pass him the car keys to run away. And when he did pass the car keys, he shrunk his face in disgust, saying that his smell lingered around people who took the subway. Ki-jung's father finally comes to his senses and realizes that even though he worked hard as a driver for the Parks, they didn't see him on the same level as them and had no remorse running away even though his daughter is bleeding out and dying. That's when he decides to stab him. In the end, there were two casualties, Ki-jung and Dong-ik. I recommend watching this film because it was just absolutely mind-blowing. I loved how there was a lot of specific detailing throughout the film, and for example, some foreshadowing happening in the beginning of the film, where a family friend brought a rock and gifted it to the Kims. The rock represents hope and was said to bring material wealth to the family. This rock would appear throughout the film ominously, in my opinion. Also, looking from a film's perspective, at directly the halfway point, the music suddenly speeds up and up, signifying something was going to happen and change the course of events. Definitely go watch it. It is a great film.